Good morning students. Today I am going to give you explanation of Merchant of Venice Act 1 Scene 1. In sooth I know not why I am so sad. It wearies me, you say it wearies you. But how I caught it, found it or came by it, what stuff it's made of, whereof it is born, I am to learn. And such a want with sadness makes of me that I have much ado to know myself. Antonio is upset, and he begins his speech by saying, to tell you the truth, I do not know why I am so sad. He doesn't know the cause of his sadness, and he is upset of being sad. He says that friend, you are upset of being worried about me, but I too am tired of being sad. But I myself do not know how I caught it, found it, or came by it, and why I am so sad about it. What it's about, or where it has come from, where it has originated from, I myself do not know. And since I do not know the cause of my sadness, I clearly have to be dull about it, and I am finding ways to understand myself. Celerio just says in reply to that your mind is tossing on the ocean, there where your argosies with portly sail, like signors and rich bugglers on the flood, or as it were the pigeons of the sea, do overpeer the petty traffickers, that courtesy to them do them reverence, as they fly by them with their woven wings. Now understand this. Celerio is trying to find the reason for Antonio's melancholic state. In the very first line he says that your mind might be focused on the ocean where your merchandise is. Merchandise means his ships are. He compares his ships like rich important men moving on the sea. This line means that like signers over here refers to the gentlemen or the wealthy people, and rich bugglers refers to the same. Here there is a comparison between Antonio's big merchant ship to the gentlemen's who move on the flood. The mighty ships are compared to the rich important men parading on the sea. There is a comparison between Antonio's mighty ship to that of the rich people. As we know that when rich people or people in authority pass by, so these important men are bored and respected by common people. In the similar way, Celerio says that when Antonio's mighty ship move on the sea, other smaller boats are sailing along. They bow in reverence and respect to this great ship. Solanio was listening to what the discussion was going on. Then he also adds in the next stanza saying, Believe me, sir, had I such venture forth, the better part of my affections would be with my hopes abroad. I should be still plucking the grass to know where sits the wind, peering in maps for ports and piers and road, and every object that might make me fear misfortune to my ventures, out of doubt would make me sad. He says, trust me, sir, believe me, sir, if at all my trade or my business was involved like yours, that he says that if at all I had a business and it was in the ocean, most of my thoughts, most of my mental energy would be with my ships. I would be thinking always about my ships. And in order to know about my ships, I would be pulling up the grass and throwing it up in the air to know the direction of the wind. In the olden days, these things were practiced to navigate the ship. If you will pull a grass and throw it in the air, it will fall in the direction of the wind. So he just says that he would be continuously doing it in order to check the wind, and he would also be peering in maps. Peering in maps means looking at the maps of ports and piers and road. That means he will be checking the maps in order to know that where his ship could stand. Roads over here does not refer to the cemented road. Okay, the road over here is referred to the location or the route of the ship, and any little things that might pose danger to his ship, he would be going on making that something which would cause danger to his ship. He would go on checking whatever thought. Misfortune to my venture means anything which may cause danger to his ship, out of doubt, will make him sad, and he will be continuously doing the things in order to check the position of his ships. Celerio, he says that my wind cooling my broth would blow me to an egg when I thought what harm a wind too great at sea might do. I should not see the sandy hourglass run, but I should think of shallows and of flats, and see my wealthy Andrew dogged in sand, wailing her high top lower than her ribs to kiss her burial. We will understand it part-wise. You see, Celerio says that whenever he holds a cup of soup and he blows it to make it cool down, he shivers with a pain, and he says that if such a hot bowl of soup or a hot cup of soup can be taken down, made cooler, what will happen to his mighty ship with the strong wind blowing in the ocean? And he will be shivering with fear. Further on, he says that whenever he sees a sandy hourglass run, you will just see on the right hand side of your text, sandy hourglass. It was the instrument used during Shakespearean time to measure time. Okay, it's just a funnel shaped apparatus in which sands are put, and if you will twist it and turn it, the sand flows up and down. In the olden days, that was used to measure time. So he says that whenever I look to the sand in the sandy hourglass, all of a sudden I think of the sand in the ocean, that how a mighty ship can be sunk down in those sand. And he says that I will be shocked that how my wealthy Andrew dogged in sand. Now Andrew is a name given to a mighty ship, big merchant ship. Dogged in the sand means struck in the sand. So whenever he looks at the sand, he imagines that his mighty ship is dogged, standing still in the sand and going down, wailing her high top lower than her ribs means the top part of the ship, which is having the flag in it, is going down, sinking down, and the middle part of the ship is compared to the ribs, and it is going down and down as if it is touching its own burial. Burial means it is going to its own ground in the graveyard. Completely the ship is drowned in the sea. Further on he says, should I go to church and see the holy edifice of stone? He says that whenever I go to church and see the holy building made up of stone and not bethink me straight of the dangerous rock, he says that immediately I am reminded of the dangerous rocks which might touch up my gentle vessel side, which may collide with my ship. And what will happen if a mighty ship gets collided with a huge rock in the ocean? The things will be, whatever is contained in the ship will be scattered. So further on he says, which touching up but my gentle vessel side would scatter all her spices on the stream. Whatever is contained in the ship, the spices will be scattered in the ocean. Enrobe the roaring waters with my silk. Enrobe means cover up the waters, roaring waters in the ocean with the silks which is contained in the ship. And in a word, but even now worth this and now worth nothing. He says in a moment I will be ruined, I will be spoiled. I was so prosperous in a moment, and in a worth time I am nothing. Shall I have the thought to think on this, and shall I lack the thought that such a thing be chanced would make me sad? He says that these things will make me sad and I'll be upset whenever I will be reminded of it. So he says, but tell not me. I know Antonio is sad to think upon his merchandise. He says that, but you don't need to tell me, Antonio. I know you are worried about your merchandise and you are upset about this merchant ships which are sailing in the ocean. Antonio replies to him saying, believe me, no. I thank my fortune for it. My ventures are not in one bottom trusted, not to one place, nor is my whole estate upon the fortune of this present year. Therefore, my merchandise makes me not sad. Antonio justifies that to his friend that trust me, believe me, you are completely wrong. I want to thank God for it because my merchandise is not in one ship nor in one place. He says that I have not sent my merchant ships in one direction, and neither have I risked all my money in one venture. Therefore, it is not my merchandise which is making me sad. He very clearly says that he was not upset about his business. He was not worried about his merchandise. Salanio just says that, then probably, why then are you in love? He says that, well then, if it is not your business, then it is that you are in love. Antonio again says, fee, fee. Fee, fee over here means, what nonsense are you speaking? Salanio then says, not in love neither. Then let us say you are sad because you are not merry. And it were as easy for you to laugh and leap and say you are merry because you are not sad. Now, by two-headed genus, nature hath framed strange fellows in her time, some that will evermore peep through their eyes and laugh like parrots at a bagpiper, and other of such vinegar aspect that they will not show their teeth in way of smile. Thou, Nestor, swear the jest be laughable. Okay, here you have to understand a lot of things. I just read the text in a flow. You understand this, not in love neither. Salerno says that, okay then, if you are not in love also, then you should be jumping here and there and you should not be sad. You should be expressing your happiness, and it would have been for you to be very easy laughing and leaping and saying that you are happy, neither sad. Then he compares him to two-headed Janus. Now understand who is two-headed Janus. Janus actually is a Roman god with two faces, one inward and the other outward. Inward face and outward face depicts two things. One is a face which always laughs and the other face is always frowning, okay, not smiling, having a angry expression. So he says that nature has created two types of people. One who will go on laughing, who will be always be expressive, go on speaking, and such people are compared to parrots who are always laughing when they hear the sound of a bagpiper. And the other are of vinegar aspect. All of you know the taste of vinegar, no? It is sour. They will always be upset, never happy, and even if the great amusement is taking place in front of them, they will never show their face or teeth in a way of smile. Even if Nestor was a Greek commander, okay, he was said to be very serious, not very talkative, very silent. Even if he laughs, people like the other group who are having frowning face, they will never laugh, even if the Nestor shows his face in laughter. So you need to know the explanation of Janus and Nestor here and what type of people are created. Now you might have experienced such people in your life too, that some people are always very jolly even if something happens They will be always smiling. They will be spreading happiness wherever they go. And the other sort of people always sad, even if the greatest things are being taken. To teach you a life lesson, always trust people who are always talkative, always happy, jovial. From such people, no, you can have a good interaction, you can talk to them, you can know their heart. But people who always remain quiet, sad, such people are never to be trusted. They will have a lot of things in their mind which will never come out, and they act in a situation in a very bad way. Untrusted people. So Shakespeare through this wants to teach you about the nature, the creation of God in two aspects. Would end here. I hope you will understand till here, and then I will explain further on. We have not ended with Act 1, Scene 1. We have a lot of things. Thank you.